How's everyone doing? Sorry for a little bit of a delay. A little bit. That was my bad. That was my bad. We had some difficulties with all the magic appliances that I have. I don't know how it is that both my Magic keyboard and my Magic mouse died at the exact same time, which is great because like I charged up the Magic keyboard just a little and then I was like, oh, I'll just use the mouse plugged in. And then it's like, I forgot. Apple innovation. Mana depletion. That's right. I'm sorry. They were depleted of mana. I had to recharge them. I didn't have the fast recharge. I didn't have a mana gem. I wish I had a mana gem, just like another streamer might. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, I didn't have any mana gem. So what did you want me to do? No mana gem. No mana. Okay. All right. How's everyone doing this week? We didn't have too much in the news. Remember, I want all of you to bring your news. So if you're new here, if you've never checked in on one of these Friday lunch news streams, I spend my lunch with you guys reviewing the news that I've seen. Now, you're more than welcome to jump in the Discord that we have and drop news that you find interesting. I can't see it all. I know one of these days we want to make a web scraper and an AI that picks up all those things. That doesn't really even sound that hard. I don't know why I've been delaying on that. Maybe we'll be doing that sooner than later. Anyways, we need to do that. But go ahead and jump in there. And if you guys, if you have something now that you think I might miss, go ahead and leave it in the chat. All right. Good to see you guys. Russell, Nighthound. Good to have you guys back. And let's jump into the news. As usual, we're going to jump in with security. There's a particularly interesting security vulnerability that I think actually might apply to you guys. And I actually want to expand on their advice because there's actually something I think they left out of their advice how to mitigate this issue. So the very first thing we're going to talk about in security here is abusing AWS and native services. Now, before this, like any good lawyer was going to say, I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm not giving you security advice. I am trying to nudge you in the right direction and start to ask the right questions. All right. So abusing AWS and native services or ransomware encrypting S3 buckets with SSEC. Now, if you guys want to know what SSEC is and don't know, we can cover that in a little bit. Or, you know what? We can ask ChatGPT. We'll ask ChatGPT as soon as we're done with this little segment. But the big deal here is basically people are getting either so what people are doing here is they're obtaining keys to AWS or to specifically S3. They're getting a token that's still valid, whether it's an old one or one that was compromised or whatnot. And then what they're doing is using the server-side encryption. It's like server-side rendering, except encryption. That's what I think it's server-side encryption. I forget what the C is. I think that's what it is. But we'll ask ChatGPT. It's server-side. It might be customer, but it's customer provided server-side encryption, right? Whatever. You guys get the picture. I'm an idiot. We'll move on from that. The real picture I wanted you guys to see here is basically what they're doing is using SSEC. This is a feature to encrypt your stuff, and there's no way to get that key back. There's no way to get what they encrypted it with because that's kind of how the service works. If AWS then held your customer provided key. Yeah. So it's a server-side encryption with customer-provided keys. I don't know why it should be CPK. It should be SSE CPK. This is a bad acronym. Anyways, I digress more. So what they're doing is using this feature to encrypt your S3 buckets and claiming all your S3 buckets. The big problem with this is because it's this server-side encryption, there's no way to recover that. They're not sending it in a way that you're able to get it. It's irrecoverable. It's not recoverable. Data loss. Because CloudTrail only logs the HMAC of the encryption key, which the HMAC is not sufficient enough to actually re-get the whole encryption key. So this basically means if this happens to you, you have one choice, and that's to negotiate. Unless you implement some stuff, and we're going to talk about this. So we could talk about this, but again, they're just using keys that they can find or exploit to get. Using publicly disclosed or compromised AWS keys, the threat actor locates keys with permissions to execute get object and put object requests. That's all that they need. Then they encrypt the requests with the SSE CPK, Yeah. Then they basically mark your files for deletion within 7 days. Now, all this sounds terrifying, but it doesn't have to be. Data loss is permanent. Scope escalation, log evidence is limited. So there's a lot of problems with this. Let's talk about what they say to mitigate, and then what I think that they need to add on to this mitigation list, which is one of the key cornerstones to actually storing data for people. All right, restrict server-side encryption key usage. Basically, this is the premise of least privilege and why it's so important. I like to operate under least privilege. I have the access to a ton of stuff just because of my role, my whatnot. And the thing is, when I access something, I don't want something with that scope. If I can get a key with less scope, that's more safe. And one is because if it gets leaked somehow or compromised somehow or whatnot, there's less that you can do with it. And so restrict server-side encryption using customer-provided keys to people that need it. And if you don't need it, remove that permission. Now, I know IAM is complicated and it can be hard to do right. I think that AIs can probably help you here with this. But that's it. Another one is to monitor and audit your AWS keys. Obviously, you want to keep them fresh, and this is why key rotation is important. A lot of these that have been attacked. So this goes on that there's been 2 people that have succumbed to this attack already. These were already in older leaks. They were in older leaks. Like these were keys that they just found on the internet. And the keys were kind of old. And this is why key rotation can be important, because if you don't know the key's been leaked, it can save you. But that's not layers like an onion. Implement advanced logging. Obviously, the more you know that's going on, great. Engage AWS support. There's one thing that they missed here that's super important to mitigating this threat. Does anybody know what it is? When do you think AWS will see the first lawyer attempting to sue Amazon as their client? Data was encrypted using Oh. Don't use AWS. I mean, that's an option. But I say this with a home NAS. If I have a home NAS, there's something that I do with that data that prevents it from having this attack. You could get access to my home NAS, and you could encrypt the entire thing. And you could ask me for $1 to decrypt it. And I would say no. I'd say, get out of here. That's all the pictures of my children from when they were born till now. Get out of here. And why? Because I employ this one technique, this one secret technique. You have a copy somewhere else. It's easy. You never store, your backups are never with the data. It's somewhere else. What if my house burned down? What if somebody encrypted my NAS? All of these things means it needs to be backed up somewhere else. That's the easy solution. Does it begin with a B? Yeah. Back this crap up and put it somewhere else. That's like the really easy fix to all. Now, obviously, all these things are good. All of these things are really, really good. But when you're talking about your data, that should be a number one. These things can be hard to do right. Least privileges is hard, especially if you're a small startup. What is the least privileges? You don't even know what your privileges you need. You're getting in there to do something. And I'm sorry, that's the life of a startup. So some of these things can be difficult to do, but one easy thing is make sure that the critical data is backed up and in a separate location. Don't, and by that, I mean, don't freaking back it up to S3 buckets. You moron. Put that crap in GCP. I'm actually being serious. Like, that was kind of a joke, but another cloud would be fine. And really you should have it 3 places, but you know, okay. Anyways, I wish that they had put that in here because, like, honestly, availability is part of security, so they should know this very easily. I shouldn't have to add to their things. Anyways, nobody uses GCP. All right, let's move on. I just wanted to add that because I thought that was like the easiest thing. This is a very real threat. I would say the easiest thing is to just not leak your keys, but that happens. It really does. And honestly, we should try step one. Another step here is just don't leak your keys. There's things like Dependabot that's actually really good at doing this. There's things like ChatGPT that's actually really good at trying to find keys. So there's tools out there to try to help you keep from leaking your keys. I'm not saying that it's going to stop you. I can't sit on a high horse because here on stream, on my Saturday streams, I have leaked more keys than is reasonable in any sort of way. So I've leaked keys. But do you know what I do after every single time I rotate that crap and I delete it? So I actually just deleted all of my ChatGPT keys because I was like, I don't know. And I just redid all of them. Just redid all of them. All right. So anyways, big takeaway here is another solution is just to make sure you have backups. Let's move on. I thought GCP was a myth. You know what? We'll find GCP. We'll do a whole stream searching for GCP. Just so whether it's a myth or not. Maybe we need the online Mythbusters. Maybe I should do a Mythbuster session. I like that. Okay, anybody that has a fun myth, post that in Discord, and we'll do a Mythbuster session where we just go busting myths or confirming them. All right, let's move on to some other security. There was a pretty big patch to Git itself. I'm going to post this here for you guys. So you guys can go ahead and read this itself. I don't know that any of these are going to directly affect people that use something like GitHub. A lot of this is obfuscated. Also, GitHub does its own stuff to mitigate this. But if you're using like a local Git or something like that, possibly a provider of Git that is slower to update. But there are some good things to know about. This one was particularly interesting, where it could actually craft. Git allows you to interactively fill in credentials with its credential helper. And I actually don't use this feature. I hate credential helpers. with a passion because of the possibility of attacks like this. I literally hate credential helpers because of this. And basically what could happen is you could have crafted a well done ANSI escaped sequence that would get you to basically give your credentials to the hacker and not to a different Git host in the back end. So this was interesting. I don't know that this would have happened to many people. Another attack on the credential helper. This one was a little less interesting. And the solution to all of these is just to update. Just update and you're fixed. So use Arch. This is why you use Arch. Selling point of Arch. I'm already up to date. Yes, I may have broken my networking stack. Who knows? I broke it by an update. Then it fixed by an update. Then it broke by an update again. And now it's back to fix where my network doesn't go out on me. So I'm super happy. I'm on a working patch. It's amazing. Let's move on. Microsoft lays off employees in security, experiences and devices, sales, and gaming. This is interesting. And I brought this up in security because if you remember right, this guy right here in a hoodie that probably costs the same as my entire wardrobe. I actually have no idea how much his hoodie costs. I don't know if these really rich CEOs wear really expensive clothing. I always imagine they do, but he's also probably such a practical guy that he's like, I bought this at Goodwill. And that would be amazing. It would earn brownie points if he went to Goodwill for that shirt. But the reason I put this in security is if you remember last year, this guy right here said security. If I believe, I'm going to try to quote this, but my ability to quote is pretty bad, but I'm going to paraphrase the quote. And that is, if you have the choice between security and a feature, you pick security. Okay? The idea is that security is number one priority for Microsoft. And it's interesting that the layoffs hit security. Now, they have some performance cuts, and, this is something really large companies do. And, whether you agree with it or not, there has to be some way to get rid of your low performers. And honestly, low performers aren't even necessarily that they're bad workers. It just means that they're performing badly in your company, how you work, because people are different. I kind of learned to understand this a little bit. I used to think, and don't get me wrong, anybody can work anywhere if they really have the mindset to do it. But there's also a certain amount of sometimes people just don't work in a certain culture, and that's a thing as well, or not as well, or not as effectively. Anyways, I'm not getting into that. My apologies. My whole thing is, it was interesting because a lot of the cuts seemed targeted at security. If you'd like to come on the show and talk to me about it, I'd be happy to have you. Any of the major CEOs. I don't have time for the little CEOs, but major CEOs, I will make a concession for. So, Apple, whoever runs Apple, I don't know. You're more than welcome to be on the show. We'll talk about Crapple. We'll talk about how I don't know what we'll talk about. I really don't. I'll talk about how if I would buy an M4 Mac if it did hardware encoding, not decoding, of AV1. There you go. Recall. All right, we'll talk about recall. Well, that's a good one, Sergeant Pepper. Thank you. I should have had a joke on that. Microsoft doesn't care if you get your data encrypted. They'll sell it back to you one screenshot at a time. Oh, I just want to know. I just want to know the product meetings that were people were sitting in when Recall was thought of as a product, when Recall was designed, when Recall was rolled out. I just want to sit in those meetings because you know that there's some person like me that's sitting in there just like, maybe they just quit, because I might have done that. Like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Audio sold separately. Oh my goodness. Okay. So that was it for security. Did anybody else see anything in security? All right. Well, we're going to jump into open source news. There's a couple exciting things that happened in open source. I wanted to take a brief time to quickly state the WordPress saga has not ended. I haven't covered anything more on it because, as I've said, I don't want to be a drama cast. I know that that's kind of how you get views and stuff, and so I kind of do YouTube and Twitch wrong, but it's still ongoing. If you guys want to know more about it, I can fill you in. I have been keeping up on it. It's still ongoing. There are still battles being fought in and out of the courtroom. And I have to say, I think some wise person, it might have been me, said that no matter what, no matter who comes out as the righteous person, this has hurt the community, and it continues to hurt the community. The community is just legitimately worse off. And I'm not even like a WordPress lover. I don't have a WordPress site. I don't have a bone in the battle, in the fight. But it's a great way to hurt an entire community. And for that, I'm sad. That the parliament has a bar seems to be your parliament has a bar? That is like the most British thing I think I could like. Obviously, it's a pub, but the Parliament pub. You got to go for a little pee after you've. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I'm a child. I apologize. Look, it's lunch. Lunch on Friday. There's a little bit of joy in my heart. That hard crust that it gets during the week. It's cracking a little bit. The Publiment. That's the most British thing I've heard. Oh, the private ones are bars. I didn't realize that. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. I did not know this about the British dialect. I speak English. I apologize. But I didn't realize this. All right. We'll move on. Oh, you just dang it, Russell. Dang it. We're moving on because you guys are trolling me. Okay. In the open source, there was one thing that got me very excited, and I think it should get you excited too. Rust 184 has been released, and this brings a lot of really cool stuff. But there's some stuff that you should really know about as well if you're targeting WASM. because the cargo considers Rust versions for dependency version selection, has the MSRV, minimum supported Rust version, which resolves the minimum supported Rust version. Pretty self-explanatory. Which prefers dependency version compatible with the project's declared MSRV, which is kind of like an MSRP, but very much different. With this aware selection, the toil is reduced for maintainers to support older toolchains by not needing to manually select older versions for each dependencies. So basically, if you're a maintainer, this helps a little bit. This is actually something that I have run into with cargo. So I'm hoping that this helps a little bit. So there's been some turmoil in my life based off of this. So I'm kind of excited about this. Migration to the new trait solver begins. So the Rust compiler is in the process of moving to a new implementation of the trait solver. The next generation trait solver is a re-implementation of the core component of Rust type system. It is not only responsible for checking whether trait bounds hold, but it's also used for many parts of the type system, blah, 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 blah. The new solver is going to be used in checking coherence of traits implementations. At the high level, coherence is responsible for ensuring that there is at most one implementation of a trait for a given type while considering not yet written or visible code from other crates. So this is kind of it's a behind the scenes improvement that's going to improve crates again, third-party maintenance and libraries. The thing I'm really excited about is the strict provenance APIs. So in Rust, pointers are not simply an integer or an address. You know, in Rust, you try to avoid the just raw pointers. This is what I would call a raw pointer, and they're not just raw pointers. And because of this, there's actually some really hard things with the provenance of APIs. And there's been this, if you're integrating with something like C, there's sometimes like this weird cast of an integer, and it's not great. So when casting pointers to integers and back, the provenance of the resulting pointer is unspecified. With this release, Rust is adding a set of APIs that can in many cases replace the one second, let me make that a little bit bigger. In many cases, replace the use of integer pointer casts, therefore avoid the ambiguities inherent to such casts. So it's not saying that it covers all cases, which is good. You should never design something to cover all cases. It's trying to hit the majority, and this is good. So there's obviously going to be corner cases where this is still true, but fantastic. Were these features on the highest list of priorities for the language? I don't know. They came up with a bunch of stabilized APIs we could go over. I don't know. I don't know the prioritized list, but they're pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about them. Now, if you're wondering, Microsoft and Satya have not quite gotten out of the news just yet. They've earned a special spot in one of the biggest blunders of the week, and it happened to be in open source. I believe we could say that they pulled an Intel on Intel, which is kind of fun to say. Microsoft pulls a Windows as it breaks Linux on Intel PCs and angers AMD. Now, fun thing is that Intel did this a little while ago as it broke AMD. But what happened is in 6.3. Now, 6.3 was going so well that Linus Torvalds was actually like really happy about it. And so somebody had to step up and make a blunder out of it because like 6.3 was going swimmingly well. Like Linus Torvalds was happy. That doesn't happen often, okay? So if Linus Torvalds is happy, somebody has to step up and ensure that they cause turmoil. Now, what happened is, Arch has been mentioned, but this is not the Linux distribution. This is the architecture, arch type of thing. And basically, there's these feature flags. There's these features that are actually kind of important. What these features do is they basically, you know how there's the predictive algorithms on CPUs that are basically predicting branches, and in that there's ways to get around that by predicting tags and stuff like that. And so to do that, they actually have these features that prevent JOP and COP attacks, which again, these are call or jump oriented programming attacks where you're trying to abuse that system. Anyways, basically, they broke it for anything but ARM. They broke it for just about anything but ARM. As they deactivated that. It broke a bunch of things. Let's not do this again, please. The most passive-aggressive please in open source you'll ever see. Unless if Linus Torvalds writes it himself. It was pretty fantastic. The Switch 2 could probably be labeled as open source. You know, I wish that, you know, we have an ad starting, so we're just going to talk for a little bit. We're just going to talk a little bit. I wish that Nintendo would stop making hardware. There, I said it. I said it out loud. If, you know, Nintendo is just large enough to be on an interview with me. I know I have to. I'm like Joe Rogan. I got to be picky with so many people are wanting to be interviewed by me. I got to be picky. But I would do it. I would do it. Yeah, that's one I could probably squeeze it in. Anyways, that being said, I wish that they would stop making hardware. Their hardware sucks every single time. It's overpriced. It sucks. And then they limit their games to it. So is this a signal that Microsoft is moving its devs to ARM? Actually, Russell, I think that a lot of people are making a move, a very progressive push to ARM. There are very few reasons that I see. And right now, like, one of the big things that people don't see is we can run two things and it will be cheaper on ARM in the cloud. Easy, hands down. I can write just about any app that I do. Now, the thing that they don't realize that AMD and both AMD and Intel chips do is TLS. They have hardware and code, like they have that in hardware, and if you turn MTLS on in Kubernetes, it will perform better at a cheaper price. With the very little testing, I've done a very little, like, low-level testing. If all of your communication is encrypted, you'll still have better performance on AMD 64. So Intel and AMD. Because they have hardware accelerated encoding and decoding of TLS. And so that's a big deal that people don't look at. Now, and I'm not saying that ARM can't get there, but the ARM chips right now don't have that. It's lacking. And that's a big one for the servers. It's not so big on the personal PC and things like that. It's not a big deal. But if we're talking about the servers, it's a pretty big deal for me, at least. Land of the Elite. You cannot get the NVIDIA digits until I get it, okay? I'm the streamer. I have to go beg just like you do. I'm going to try to get it, and I'm going to try to provide it for people to use when I'm not using it. So I announced that last week. If you guys don't know, the digits, it looks pretty cool. If it holds up to what it says, it looks pretty cool. I'm going to get it. And I'm going to try to provide it to subscribers to the channel. So basically, if you subscribe, you can get it. I'm hoping that it allows me to run a VM and pass everything through to the VM. So basically, when you subscribe to it, you'll get it for 24 hours, and you'll be given a VM. That's the idea. That's basically just the whole machine. You'll have the whole machine, but a VM, that way it's easy to reset. So that is something we're going to try to do. Oh, Sergeant Pepper, I know that they sell out of their consoles. It's ridiculous. They make some of the worst hardware and sell out of it. And it's because it's because people want the game. I mean, I have a Switch because I wanted to play Zelda, but I hate it. Zelda could have been a better game if it was on better hardware. I'm sorry. That's just the fact of the matter. I only tell facts, and I'm never wrong. You just haven't realized it yet. All right, let's finish up the open source now that it's done. 2.48 is here. I put this on here. Most of the time, a Git release, like not GitHub, but Git, isn't that exciting to the users. I find that the majority of what I use for Git has been here for the majority of the life of Git. But Git 2.48 releases something I'm actually excited about leveraging. Now, I know that we've all been in the time where we make a merge and there was conflicts and you dealt with them. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, and I'm going to guess that we've all been in this position where how we dealt with them is maybe not the best way to have dealt with them. I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe it's happened to you. It's never happened to me. I'm better than that. But I'm sure that it's happened to other people, hopefully, because it definitely has happened to me, and that sucked. Now, we could talk about the faster SHAs, but I mean, they got faster SHA-1s, which is good. Fantastic. We don't care. What we do care about is the remerge diff added to the range diff. Okay? This is cool. This is very cool. So Git's range diff command allows you to compare two sequences of commit, including changes to older commit messages and the actual content changes they introduced. This could be useful when comparing a sequence of commits that were rebased, potentially tweaking the older and changes within the patches along the way, to what that set of commits looked like before the rebase. Git's remerge diff option now tells git show and git log or various diff-related commands to view the differences between where Git would have stopped with the merge and what is recorded with the merge. This can be useful when dealing with merge conflicts, since the remerge diff view will show you the difference between the conflicts and their resolutions, showing you how a given merge conflict was handled. That's powerful. That's powerful right there. Especially, like what I'm going to say is, like, if a junior or mid-level engineer comes to me and said they had merge conflicts and dealt with it, I can power this up and I can see how they dealt with the merge conflicts. That's cool. That's cool. So anyways, I got really excited about this because, like I said, a lot of the times that I look over these, I'm like, yeah, cool. You know, they did SHAs faster, which will speed up really large repositories. And like, that's cool and good and all, but like a lot of the times the features just don't really matter that much. Remerge diff is something really cool. We're going to learn to use it, and we're going to do a Mighty Mini Monday with it because I think it's cool. And I don't know that this is like the most useful thing. You're not going to use this every single day, but there's going to be times when it's useful. And now that you've heard it from me, when you're in that, you're going to be like, wait, there's a thing for this. There's a thing. And then you're going to have to ask ChatGPT what it is. And since it's this year and not like 5 years ago, ChatGPT is not going to know. So then you're going to believe that I was a liar. But all the rebase crybabies can now stop crying. That's right, Sergeant Pepper. Rebase or go home. System 76 is releasing Cosmic DE Alpha 5. All right, I'm actually kind of excited about the Cosmic desktop because you know what? I'm going to say something that's going to make a lot of i3 people angry. I miss having a desktop. I love i3. And for streaming, I just love it for streaming. But I miss having a desktop too, because sometimes I'm like, I'd like to set up Wi-Fi, but I don't know how to do it through the command line just yet because I'm not that much of a pro at Linux. And that's when i3 kind of sucks a lot, like a whole lot. Now, what I would love to do is have a tiling window manager that works amazing, on Wayland, brings me the power of i3. I don't know where I was going with this sentence. Anyways, I'm excited about it. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. That was it for the open source news, besides the Switch 2. Yeah. Tiling Wayland manager. I tried Sway. Sway's fine, but I have the same problem with Sway. Don't get me wrong, Wayland isn't the only thing. The problem I have with Sway is the same with i3. I actually want a desktop environment, not just a window manager. Now, again, that I realize I use i3 and I'm okay with it. It's okay. Just like my volume buttons to work. All right. We have AI news. I don't want to sway. I want to swoon. All right. New desktop environment called Swoon coming out. Why sway when you can swoon? Fantastic. All right. Let's talk artificial intelligence. Now, as I've said, I am going to get NVIDIA's new computer as soon as possible. I don't know what type of back order I'm going to be on and how fast I'll be able to get it, but I'm going to, and we're going to build a thing to share it with the community, which is going to be fun. One of the things that I want to try is this right here. Because I think this would be super cool. Super cool. $450, 19 hours is all it takes to rival OpenAI's O1 preview. So UC Berkeley released an open source model that's on par with O1's math and coding abilities for the fraction of the cost. So if nothing else, we could run this locally and add it to the AI games, if nothing else. But they also released how they trained it, and I kind of want to try training it on this piece of hardware we get, doing the same types of things that they would do. I think that would be super cool. So we're gonna spend a lot of time learning some AI stuff, and by learning I mean stumbling through it, because that's how I roll. But yeah, so it's gonna be cool. The $450 is what they spent. I believe it was on AWS. Let's see. Trained for less than $450. I think it was on AWS, but we can go look at the code. Lambda Labs. Probably. Anyways, we'll move on. But it's all open source there, so I want to try it on this little supercomputer that I'm getting. Hopefully, it's gonna be like a year out. I know it. There's gonna be so many people getting it when really I should get it first. But the 200 billion ones are insane. Supposedly, the NVIDIA GPU can handle up to 200 billion. So we'll see. Now, according to Elon Musk, the expert at just about everything, including gaming itself, legend, AI has gobbled up all the human-produced data to train itself. And now it says to train itself. These are actually like people training it, so that's kind of a weird way of saying it at best. But I actually don't disagree. Probably most of the publicly available data has been obtained by OpenAI, by the people that create Claude, by the people who create Bluebird and Llama. They're right. Those scrapers have been hitting the internet. I have seen web scrapers from these people on my crap, okay? If I'm getting hit with them, and it's literally crap that they're scraping, most people have. Interesting. I only bring this up because last week, I brought up that AI pulled a Salesforce. And a Salesforce is when you try to say, I messed up in a good way. So, like, I could do something bad and I could say, I'm sorry, I messed up. Please forgive me. I could go and say, man, I overhired. I screwed up as the CEO. I miscalculated what we're going for. And I'm sorry. And that's on me. I could do that. But there's a better way. And that better way, the Salesforce way, is to say, oh, I didn't mess up. I didn't screw up. We're just that good. So, like if I accidentally slipped and I accidentally hit somebody with my hand, I would be like, I'm sorry. The Salesforce way would be like, no. I did exactly what I needed to avoid falling and smashing this child. And your face just happened to be in the way, which was a calculated risk that I decided was better than the alternative in that split second. I didn't mess up. Thank you. That's the Salesforce. Anyways, last week, Meta decided to pull a Salesforce. That's fine. I don't know. Don't care. What I do care is this. Then, right afterwards, Meta decides to cut roughly 5% of its staff through performance-based terminations. Now, why I care about this and wanted to bring it up is because everybody was crying, oh, it's the AIs. They're taking it over. They're already cutting jobs because of the AIs. And that's just demonstrably false. If you look at what Bloomberg reported in its internal memo, it is performance-based cuts like Microsoft's have nothing to do with AI. It has all to do with cutting out lower performers. Mark Zuckerberg in the note has said that they're looking to replace those people. They're going to still hire people. They're just looking to more quickly remove underperformers. And so please stop crying AI whenever somebody loses their job. I am going to be annoyed. All right. We have outage of the week. We're going to do what I like to call an outage review. I don't know if you guys know what Proton is or Proton Mail, but they provide security and privacy-based products. I actually generally I don't use Proton, but I like their stance on things. And I have thought about using Proton. If my YouTube and whatnot gets large enough, and I have like a business email and stuff, I've thought about using Proton Mail. So they had an incident, and we're going to rate their incident. We're going to review it. We're going to talk about what we can learn from their incident, and see if they did a really good job of writing up an incident report for all of their lovely fans. All right, let's jump into this. Earlier today, around 4 p.m. Zurich time, the number of new connections to Proton's database servers increased sharply globally across Proton's infrastructure. This overloaded Proton's infrastructure and made it impossible for us to serve all customer connections. While Proton VPN, Proton Pass, Proton Drive and Docs, and Proton Wallet were recovered quickly, issues persisted for longer on Proton Mail and Proton Calendar, the services everybody uses Proton for. For those services, during the incident, approximately 50% of requests failed, leading to intermittent service unavailability for some users. The service would look to be alternating between up and down from minute to minute. So, let's recap. This is actually a pretty good summary of what I know. I did search around a little bit for other people's. Like I said, I don't have experience myself. This seemed to be pretty accurate from what I could see, which is really good. And why I say this is you don't want to, when you're writing up one of these things, when you're writing up a incident report, you don't want to sugarcoat it. Now, you obviously don't want to make yourself look bad, and you don't want to do anything like that, but being accurate in how bad it was is very important. Because if you try to sugarcoat it, you're going to get some YouTuber that wants to get famous that's going to find out and call you out on it. Not that I called out NVIDIA, and not that I'm making a video on that, but they're going to find you. Dude, I can't say the word Zurich without doing that. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is about Zurich. It's a cool word, by the way. Normally, Proton would have sufficient extra capacity to absorb this load while we debug the problem. But in recent months, we have been migrating our entire infrastructure to a new one based on Kubernetes. We knew it. Kubernetes is the problem. Kubernetes is what caused Proton to go down. This requires us to run two parallel Oh my goodness. This requires us to run two parallel infrastructures at the same time without having the ability to easily move load between the two very different infrastructures. While all other services have been migrated to the new infrastructure, Proton Mail is still in middle of the migration process. This sucks, but I understand it. It sucks, but I understand it. Because of this, we were not able to automatically scale capacity to handle the massive increase in load. In total, it took us approximately 2 hours to get back to the state where we could service 100% of requests. I wonder what was causing. Hopefully they go into it, but why couldn't they scale this? Like, I realize that they run two different parallel infrastructures at the same time, and most likely one's acting as the main and one's acting, as the redundant, and it's just getting all the requests so that they can synchronize them. I get it. I've done this before. I've been in the game a little while. Without having the ability to easily move load between the two different infrastructures, I get that. You can't, one is generally serving everything, and the other one is just getting spun up to speed and is there. It's not even that you could serve any requests from it. Well, and maybe they were migrating like one account at a time. Maybe that's why they had requests going to both infrastructures. But the weird thing is, and hopefully they explain, because if not, they have some unanswered questions. You got to answer all the when you're doing this. So I'm giving them an A on explaining what went wrong and how bad it was. But this, one thing that you have to do here, and we'll grade them on it, is if you open up a question like, why couldn't you scale both of those? Originally, you had to be able to scale. The new infrastructure should be able to scale, and the old infrastructure should be able to scale. Why having both of them could you not scale it? And it's fine if you have a reason. My guess is that they run on actual hardware, and they just didn't have the capacity in their data center. That would be my guess. If I had to guess, that would be really good. State that. Don't leave unanswered questions. Hello, X. How are you? Okay. A parallel investigation by our site reliability engineering team identified a software change that we suspected was responsible for the initial load spike. Okay. So this wasn't an external. They didn't have one thing I was going to say is why were all of a sudden a bunch of people joining Proton? I mean, good for them. I'm happy for them, but like it seems like that's not true. Also, good on them for having a site reliability engineering team that was on this. Good on them. After this change was rolled back, database load returned to normal. This change was not initially suspected because a long period of time had elapsed between when this change was introduced and when the problem manifested itself. This is always true. I don't know why. It's always true. And an initial analysis of the code suggested that it should have no impact on the number of database connections. A deeper analysis will be done as part of the postmortem process to understand this better. Ooh, okay. Well, I'm hoping to see that postmortem process because leaving an unopened question like this hurts a little bit. Hopefully they clear it up in an update. The completion of ongoing infrastructure migration will take Proton's infrastructure more resilient to unexpected incidents like this by restoring the high level of redundancy that we typically run, and we are working to complete this work as quickly as possible. Did they release a post-mortem? Where's their blog? I'm going to give them a B. I'm going to give them a B. A C. I'm giving them a C. And the reason is they left too many unopened things. All right. Honestly, don't tell me. I don't want to know. You rolled back the change. You identified the change and you rolled it back. Don't put that in here. You left an unopened question. Okay. Do a postmortem later. That explains it all when you do know. I don't expect you to understand everything or know everything immediately, especially if it isn't evidently clear. But in this, which is just your technical difficulty incident report, don't say, I don't know. It's not needed, honestly. From my point of view, you identified the change and you roll back the change and you're looking to understand it better. Move on. Or you're doing a deeper analysis on everything that went into it to ensure it doesn't happen again, and you'll be doing a follow-up postmortem because follow-up postmortems are fantastic, and we'll read it when it happens, and we'll give that a rating too. The reason this is a C is because there's a lot of unanswered questions that they brought. Why couldn't they scale? Having two different stacks doesn't mean that each stack can't scale. It's not really a great answer. Yeah, this is just not a great answer. Like I said, it could have a very simple answer, but one thing that you should do when you mark things resolved is have them resolved and don't open unanswered questions. Another thing here is you opened another unanswered question. You said that the code that you did. Now I'm questioning whether you actually fixed it or not. You basically said this code shouldn't have done it, but it seems to have fixed it. It's fixed. That's not fixed to me. This needs another update. You don't put this as fixed, resolved with this statement. with this statement. Update 2. You could have gotten an A. This was not too terrible. They did updates through the outage, which is also good. I'll give them an A on how they handled it throughout the outage. We're getting 4 hours. That's not great. 2 hours, not great. But this is pretty good. Even if it's just we're continuing the investigation, this is great communication. You're still working on it. They're still all hands on deck. This is good. All servers on the mail and calendar are operating normally. Okay, so they, identified another update. An hour later, a little less than an hour later. This is good. This is good. They did a lot of stuff well here, and I know I'm nitpicking. I love you, Proton Mail. I don't know. I have never used you, Proton Mail, but I generally like the work that you guys do. They did a pretty good job. They did a pretty good job on their incident report. All right. If you guys have any other ones that you'd like to review, let's review them. I want to start doing it. I think it would be fun and educational because honestly, we don't, hopefully, have to do those things a lot. And I'm going to actually start making scorecards for these people. Yeah. I'll never get hired by them. I did almost say icy boxy. I did. I almost said it, but I didn't. I stuttered and I was like, hi, X. How are you doing? Then it just sounds super weird when I end up saying it. It's good to see you though. All right. Now we have the cloud news. We got a couple fun things in the cloud news. Let's jump into them because my lunch break is almost up. So I got to go. We're going to do some speed reading. Linux ARM 64 hosted runners now available for free in public repositories in public preview. It's interesting because public preview usually means that there's no support, but if you're on the free ones, there's no support anyway, so good luck. Anyways, this is cool. They're powered by the Cobalt 100 based processors. Fantastic. If you're looking to leverage ARM in your runners, it's fantastic. I've actually been using these in private repositories for a little while. I've had access to it, and they actually work really, really well, and they are really, really fast. If you are compiling something and you're using emulator, the emulator sucks and takes forever. This is so much better to actually just run it on an ARM processor. Way better. Super cool. Let's move on. AWS didn't really have anything cool. I looked through their stuff. I was like, nothing cool. Nothing cool at all. They're still just going over reinvent AI doxing on you or gaslighting. It was really more like AI gaslighting. Not doxing. Doxing was a stupid word. If I had used the AI to write this script, they would not have used doxing. That's how you know I'm not an AI. Don't even know how to speak English. Thanks, X. Thank you. All right. Microsoft Fabric Runtime 1.1 is end of support. You need to be on Fabric 1.3, so go ahead and fabric it up because that's the latest Fabric. You don't want to be on an old Fabric. You want that new Fabric. That's all I'm going to say there. Troubleshoot disk performance using Microsoft Copilot in Azure. Copilot strikes again. Do you know what, guys? I'm getting my car back tomorrow. I think that's why I'm in such a good mood. I'm getting my car back tomorrow. It's been a long time since I've had a car. I live in America. It means that the grocery store is a car ride away. I can't walk there. I'm very excited about this. Okay. Troubleshoot disk performance using Microsoft Copilot in Azure. This is actually one thing, if you guys watch the AI games and if you watch my video coming out on AI, this is one of the things that I actually think AIs do very good at is statistical analysis work and pulling out anomalies and stuff like that. I actually think that Copilot's a great debugging tool, especially with logs. It was really great with logs. So I actually think that this is possibly a really, really cool use of it. So if this is you, if you're in Azure, use it. If you're on GCP, there was nothing new and shiny. This is old. So hopefully you're not on GCP. We're pretty sure that GCP is a lie. All right. Now, do you know how you're really dunking on the competition? You know how you're really dunking on the competition? When you blame your competition for shortages. Now, you're probably like, how would, if I make product X and somebody else makes product Y, how would I blame product Y's manufacturer on product X being out of stock? How would I do that? Well, AMD is here to clear that up. AMD blames Ryzen 980 3D shortages on complexity and Intel's crappy chips. They literally came out and said, we weren't aware that their new processor was going to suck so bad. And because of that, we have like 200 times the number of requests for our chips. That's their words. They literally said it sucks so bad. Okay, I don't know their exact words, but that's literally what they're saying is the reason it's hard and they miscalculated the number of 9800X 3D chips. One, they said it's a hard chip to make. They did say that. But they said the bigger deal was that Intel's newest chips were so bad that they were just getting a ton of people coming over. Are Intel still eating themselves? Yes. Yes, they are. Absolutely. The last I know that they had a firmware update that kind of mitigated the issue if it hadn't already passed a certain point of no return. They're still running hot and there's still issues, but they don't destroy themselves quickly. Their newest chips were just disappointing as far as like chips go. Now, if you were looking to get your hands on one of those sweet, sweet Ryzen chips, AMD did say that it takes about 12 weeks to make a chip from start to finish. So that means ramping up production now only affects something in 12 weeks. So you're still looking at, 3 months? 3 months before that ramped up production hits the shelves. All right. I ran out of time. I wanted to go over this. I'll go over it tomorrow, probably in the middle of my stream. We're gonna do some more AI stuff tomorrow. I got some ideas, and then I'm gonna have to leave because I gotta go pick up my car. I'm very excited about that. I have missed my car. I am an American. As much as we're role-playing Canada right now, holy cow, we are role-playing Canada. Like, the entire eastern seaboard of the United States has role-played Canada. 2.5 feet of snow. That's absurd, unheard of where I live. We get snow, don't get me wrong. We don't get this much snow, and it's still on the ground. Like, it's still there. Usually we have snow for about a week before it gets too warm to melt it. Like, that's on a good time. I have had it for 3 weeks now. I still cannot get packages up my driveway. Anyways, I digress. I will cover this tomorrow. Reddit no longer is haunted by drifting Kubernetes configuration. I think this is an interesting article. And I want to talk about it because I think it has really good points, and I think it also has really dangerous points. I mean dangerous as possibly good if you're Reddit. But as we're engineers, we got to design for our problem and everything like that. And that means that our problems aren't Reddit's problems. Reddit operates at a scale and handles things differently than a lot of us. So I wanted to talk about those and go over that with you all, but I'll do that tomorrow. Any plans on doing neural network training in the future? Absolutely. That's why I'm buying a 3,000 piece of garbage, paperweight. That's what we're going to do with it, right? 100%. We're probably going to start before I get it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think they said March or May. I think it's going to be middle of summer before I get a chance of getting one. I'm not an influencer that they're going to even care about. So there's no way I get it that way. And then I have to just fight for it like the rest of you. And I think there's going to be a lot of high demand for it. So I don't foresee me getting it. Like worst case, it might be fall. It might be fall. I'm going to hope to get it. And we're definitely going to do some neural network training. We're gonna learn this year. My whole thing is to learn something. It doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and teach you guys, because I don't know what I'm doing a whole lot of the time. But hopefully we can all learn something together and maybe make some fun videos out of it as well. AI games, real world edition in the summer. Yeah. Actually, is Reddit just embracing the... They did actually fix it. And I want to go over how they fixed it and why it's maybe not for you. But also, it's pretty cool how they fixed it. And if it is for you, it's maybe a good model to follow as well. I actually want to, if we can get there, what I really like to do, this is something I had an idea of at the last AI games. What I wanted to do, and let me draw this. I have 3 minutes left for lunch. Let me draw this really quickly for you all. What I want to do is I want to make a game like chess, just simple games. But I want these games to be played by 2 players and have basically each turn be some like JSON object. With like the state of the game, it's your turn and everything like that. And basically, your AI agent will make a move. And we're going to have AI games, but I want the community to train an AI to win. And then we're going to have brackets, and each AI plays against a different AI in chess. And maybe we can make a few other games as well. I think that would be a ton of fun, where the AI games actually have these like butting heads against each other. That was a 12-watt problem. Oh, that would also be kind of fun. Okay, we might do that too. We might do that as well. That would actually be really cool to measure the energy usage. I'm going to do that. So when we train and do stuff like that, we'll calculate everything. We'll see how much energy it uses and whatnot. Oh, that's a good idea, Russell. I appreciate that. All right. I've got to get going. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for the news. Next week, everything's as usual. The only thing I have to say about next week is that I'm still iffy on whether I'll stream during the week again. I'm still trying to unpack. I have to replace a dishwasher. There's a lot of stuff going on in my life next week. So probably not, but we'll see. If I do, it'll probably be me gaming or something, having fun, just relaxing a little. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic weekend if you can't make it tomorrow, but make it tomorrow.